Welcome back YouTube to our next video in revision of biology WJEC, and we're carrying on the theme of diffusion, and we have something called osmosis. And Gary has a question here. What is osmosis, Gary? Well, let's see if Gary knows what it is. Well, Gary, it's now, before I flip this over, do you know what osmosis is? Let's have a look. Osmosis is the diffusion of water molecules. So we talked about diffusion in the last video. Diffusion is just where molecules move around and mix. And to move around and mix, they pass through the cell membrane. And the cell membrane is designed just to let specific or different types of molecules pass through it. So looking at this picture, which molecules will be able to move through the cell membrane? Yeah, it's those little tiny water molecules. The salt molecules can't get through. So that's osmosis. Osmosis is specifically the diffusion or movement and mixing of water molecules. Okay, so there are two types that you're going to need to know about. We've got osmosis in animal cells, and you're going to need to know about osmosis in plant cells. So let's have a quick look at animal cells. So down here we've got some pictures. We've got, hopefully you recognize these two are going to be the animal cells. So first of all, if we have a dilute solution, so if something is dilute, it means you've mixed loads of water with it. So if you like your squash weak, then you probably have a tiny bit of squash and then loads of water. In this situation, we've got a cell floating around in a dilute solution, means we've got a tiny bit of salt and lots of water. So if there's lots of water, what's going to happen is the water molecules are going to keep going into the cell through the cell membrane. Okay, so when we've got a dilute solution where there's not much salt, the cell's going to keep swelling up. Now, if we've got a concentrated solution, so if you like your squash concentrated, that means you have loads of squash and not so much water. So in this situation, we've got a cell floating around in a solution that's got lots and lots of salt in it. Now, the salt will actually basically draw the water out. So the water molecules are going out from the cell membrane, and this time the animal cell will shrivel up. Right, let's have a quick look at what happens with the water cells. So similar, if we're in a dilute solution, meaning that we have got lots of salt, when we have not much salt, because we've got lots of water, more water than salt, the cell is going to keep swelling up. And similarly, if we've got a concentrated solution, so the cell is floating around in water where there's lots of salt, the salt is going to draw the water out from the cell. And let's talk a little bit about how these pictures, what these pictures mean. So the first thing is, in an animal cell, the cell might actually burst because it's going to keep swelling up and swelling up and swelling up. And in the water cell, in the other animal cell, we've got, I'm finding my labels here, the cell will shrivel up. So it's going to keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, with the plant cell has something special. It has a cell wall. So the animal cell just has a membrane. The plant cell has a membrane and a cell wall. And that stops it from bursting. Okay, so that protects it. And it also helps it keeps its shape. So even though it's not shriveling up, because the cell wall is helping to keep its shape. So we call this turgid. So if it's in a dilute solution and it's swelling up, getting really, really large, we call it turgid. And we call it flaccid if it's in a concentrated solution and it's losing lots of water. So it's kind of in a flaccid state. Okay, so I hope you managed to get through to the end of this video. And I think I'm going to do one more. And hope you like it. Thank you very much, and see you in the next video.